Welcome back or to my channel. Today's video, we are just sitting down having more of a raw video and talking about the differences between disposable pets and rehoming pets. There is a large difference, but everything gets kind of blurry in the pet community and neither of these topics are talked about, so I'm coming to bring it to the surface, I guess. I don't know. So today's video is a little bit more raw and just kind of to the point. Well, not to the point. It's not going to be to the point. I'm going to be giving my opinions and talking about kind of controversial topics. So if you don't do well with that, I guess you don't have to watch this video. And if you do want to mention something like your opinion on this video or the topics in general or something I maybe forgot to mention, please go ahead, as long as it's respectful. I have my tea here. I hope my setup isn't awful. I think it's kind of honestly aesthetically pleasing in my opinion, but my pillows could probably have been better organized, but it's fine. So what is disposable pets, and then what is the definition of rehoming a pet? Let's see if Google has definitions, and if not, I'm just going to kind of give my own, probably not very good definition. Instead of turning your pet into a shelter where he or she may be killed, you could consider rehoming. What is rehoming for pets? This is a process in which you try to find a new home for your animal. Many people would prefer to take in a pet that comes from a good home and is already trained. Obviously that has more to do with dogs, but you get the general point. If someone's rehoming an animal for good intentions, it's not, they just genuinely can't care for the animal anymore, or just really don't have the means to, mentally or physically, or they just think the animal in general would be better off with somebody else or be more enriched somewhere else. Disposable pets are small, furry, feathered, or scaled things in which seem to come and go frequently, particularly in families with several children. They have a rather high mortality rate, particularly when they are purchased as a responsibility development program for a small child. Often they can pass on and be replaced the same day and no one is the wiser. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. And then it's just listing a ton of different animals that people often do this with and where they came from. So it's not always children, it can be people. A lot of people in the pet community do this. Basically, they just don't have the right intentions for the animal. They buy them for responsibility development, like they mentioned in this, for clout, for fame, for views, money, and then they just pass the animal along when they get bored of it. When the animal dies, they just replace it. Basically, they don't really care about the well-being of the animal very much. It's just kind of an object, or kind of a part of how they're going to get their money or views, or how they're going to get from A to B, and they're just using the animal to their advantage to do that for themselves when they don't really care about the pet. So that's kind of the rough definitions. There wasn't anything specific that was really on Google that explained it very well. But I hope that makes sense of kind of the differences and where the intentions are for rehoming the animal and finding it a new place to live. The pros of disposable pets is if you're kind of in your right mind and you care genuinely about the animal. Well, I shouldn't say right mind, that sounds mean. But if you genuinely cared about the animal, there's really no pros. But in certain people's mind, it is, oh, this animal's helping me get from A to Z, or it's gonna benefit me, or I can make some content with this animal and then it can go to its forever home, but we're gonna use it to educate people until I get bored of it, or until I get enough money from the animal. That's when it can go to its new home. So that's kind of probably most people's intention. I personally don't think that way and can't, so I don't really know how someone thinks about that does genuinely do that. But that's really all I can think of. There's really no pros outside of just the person's benefit of the animal or just the situation in general. The cons of disposable pets is that it shows an awful example to children and impressionable people that see this and they're like, oh, that's okay. Like, I can make a channel and do that myself, and it's normal, everyone does it, or people do it, and it's fine. Or if people are open about it, kind of, or it's kind of really obvious, people think that it's normalized and that people don't really care if you do it, and you're not gonna get accounted for, and no one's gonna care. So it sets bad examples. It is not helpful for the animal. Animals can get extremely stressed, especially dogs and cats when they're being moved from home to home. A lot of animals get very attached, even birds, hamsters, rabbits, a lot of animals like that. And then for reptiles and amphibians, which is mainly what I focus on, it is just a very stressful process to the animal. Being moved, even if it's in the exact same enclosure with the same decor and everything like that, it is still very stressful to be moved from one home to in a driving somebody somewhere else or being shipped somewhere else to then be set up somewhere else and then have to live with a completely new being that they're not used to. And sometimes this process can occur. I've worked with animals where this has been their third or even fifth home before, because people just kind of get bored of them and dispose, and then they go to someone else who has that exact same mentality, and then they just keep going down this line, and it is so stressful. And I honestly believe it most likely takes years off of an animal's life and well-being because of this. A lot of the time, disposable animals don't necessarily go to the best homes. A lot of people toss them up on local sites or something like that for $50, $100, whatever, and they just kind of sell them to the first person who emails them. Sure, I'll take it. And I'm not hating on Craigslist, Facebook, places like this. I have personally purchased multiple animals from Craigslist and Facebook, along with taken in rescues and fosters from Facebook. So I'm not necessarily saying those sites are bad or whatever, because obviously there has to be a site to rehome your animal. A lot of people don't just necessarily know somebody who's willing to take in whatever species of animal, but a lot of the time people don't really care where the animal goes. They just are kind of like meh, or they have very small like kind of requirements. People just don't seem to really care a lot of the time on like Craigslist and things like that, and there is genuine people who do. I'm not gonna lie, I have worked with people who are very serious and like you need to prove a lot to them, and I love people like that, but a lot of the times that's not the case. Pros of rehoming an animal are if the intentions are proper, the animal a lot of the time can thrive in its new home. It can just be better for the animal's well-being, and they can thrive more and be enriched and sometimes even get larger enclosures and just more of what they need that maybe the last home wasn't necessarily fully being able to provide. It also is a pro to the person, because if they're being very overwhelmed and stressed out, or they are just really struggling with finances, mental health, etc., the animal is better off in someone's hands, and I think that someone can feel a little bit more calm and happy about that. And a lot of time rehoming animals, people do care about the animal and where they go. I'm sure some people have kind of given them away to whoever because they're desperate to get rid of the animal, but if the animal does go to a proper home, it can be really beneficial to both parties. Starting off with what I just kind of said, a big negative can definitely be the fact that they could go to a bad home if you are not precise enough with the person who's taking them in. And you just want to make sure the animal is going to the right place, because if you're worried that the animal is not getting enough with you, you wouldn't want to give them less than what they already have. So just ensuring they go to a good home is definitely a big thing. So that is a con if they don't go to a proper home, or the intention just wasn't proper and you really didn't need to rehome your animal. Another con is, again, the stress on the animal. It is stressful no matter if the intention is right or not where the animal goes. It is a stressful process, and obviously after a while the animal will calm down if it is not constantly in a stressful situation. But it is still a very nerve-wracking and overwhelming environment and stressful situation for the animal for a while until they get used to and acclimated to their new home. So you're probably like, that is it. There's the pros, there's the cons, boom. This is where people get confused. There is a lot of shady people in the pet community. There's a lot of liars in the pet community. I have firsthand heard people tell me about acquaintances or friends or people themselves saying they sold their animal or rehomed their animal because of XYZ. They were overwhelmed, blah, blah, blah. They said their intentions were right, and then they have underlying and behind the scenes been just disposing the animal. And this is where people get really, really annoyed when people genuinely do rehome their animal, because people are so used to the lying and so used to people just disposing of their animals that a lot of people don't really believe when you are genuinely rehoming your animal, because a lot of people are like, oh, they don't care about the animal, or this is just a lie and a cover-up so they can save room for new animals, or because they got bored of that animal, or they don't want to make content on that animal anymore. And that's where a lot of people, I think, kind of mash the two together, which can be frustrating at times, but I also understand it completely, because if I know of multitudes of people myself who have lied about their situation. Okay, hi. I do want to clarify one thing. These were past experiences where I was naive or nervous to bring things up, and this is kind of what I'm talking about right now, that a lot of people seem to do this, so no one really gets held accountable. So I'm not trying to seem one-sided, like, you guys, we need to all, like call people out, and then I'm not doing anything. These were past experiences, so if I knew about these things now or still talk to these people, I would definitely bring something up. But I just wanted to disclose that and clarify that if I was in that situation now, I totally would have said something, but at the time I was too nervous to. So just want to let everyone know that. And about being genuine about the intentions. I mean, how many people are there out there that have done this? So that is where a lot of people get really concerned and just kind of confused. And I myself find myself in that boat often as well, because you kind of do have to toss up, like, gosh, do I think they're a genuine person? Do I think their intentions are right? Or is this just a cover up because they actually are just trying to get rid of their animal? Because no one's going to come out and say, yo, I'm just disposing this animal, peace. No one's going to say that. They know they're going to get canceled. They know they're going to be shut down and called out for, which they should. Not be canceled, but they should be called out for their actions and be told what they're doing wrong. But yeah, and so a lot of people just are like, oh, I'm rehoming this animal, blah, blah, blah. And then they just take the money from the $500 snake they just sold and then go buy two $250 crested geckos and don't announce them for a few months. And then they're like, guys, I'm doing so much better, so here's... The camera died. So then people are just like, oh, here's the animal I've been hiding for, 3 months. Well, they don't say that. They're like, oh, here's my new animal, but they just bought it like a week after they rehomed their snake. I hope that made sense. So, yeah, that's where a lot of people get confused, and I really wish it was easier to identify people's true intention, but unless they come forward and, either people call them out for it, which people need to start doing, because a lot of people, obviously, you don't want to have confrontation, and you don't want to, like, call out your friends or acquaintances or people like that, but sometimes it's necessary, especially in the pet community when we are caring for living beings. And I think that we kind of need to straighten each other out a little bit more. So that is the video. I hope that we can have a conversation about this. I'm genuinely super curious to hear other people's opinions and thoughts and everything amongst that. So let me know your opinion below, and if there's any heavier topics you want me to kind of talk about too, please let me know, because I enjoy making videos like this, and I will see you guys next time. I love you so much. Stay possum. Peace.